The United States just suffered the most embarrassing loss in the history of our country in our most prestigious sport in a game that we created. Now, when I'm talking about embarrassing, I mean embarrassing. I'm talking about getting wheelchaired up out of your school because you didn't know holding in farts could kill you type of embarrassing. That level of embarrassment took place. When I was growing up, me, my cousins, and one of our best friends created our own baseball game called bunt ball. It was 2-on-2 baseball where you only had first base and third base, and you could only bunt the ball within a certain range or you would be out. Had our own little set of rules. Still had 3 outs and you still got 3 strikes. But it was just one of those things. We created it so, well, we had something to play just in case we couldn't get the entire neighborhood to come over and play baseball games, which was shocking. We actually did get full neighborhood baseball games taking place, and including one of us making it all the way to the pros. So out of all that sandlot baseball that we actually played in the backyard, there was some good that came out of it, some real, ingenuity and whatnot. But the point of this story is the fact that this loss by the United States was so embarrassing. It would be just as if we had 2 random people show up to our house and decide they were going to beat us in bunt ball and they didn't know the rules or even how to play baseball. That's what happened to the United States. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel as we're going to dive into a quick video today about this very, 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 very disappointing and embarrassing loss for the United States of America. So if you've never heard of the IFAF, don't worry, you are not alone. I have never heard of that either. It stands for International Federation of American Football, which means it's our game, the Americans. It's literally got American in the name. So it's just like saying football Americano. That's what this is. It is not soccer. That is not what this is. This is actually putting a helmet and shoulder pads on, going out there and thumping them pads. All the crazy analogies that you used to be making in football. Yeah, there's a lot of those. But nonetheless, this federation started back in 2002, which is, not that long ago, about 22 years ago, but still, it's just an Olympic sport. This became a lot bigger recently because there's the flag football championships that the Americans took home and the American women ended up losing, which is disappointing. All I know is we should be dominating this sport like the U.S. women's basketball team dominates its sport. There is actually no more dominant team in the history of sports than the U.S. national basketball team. They are the dream team every year. Every time they turn up for the Olympics, they kick ass. They embarrass every opponent they line up against. It's never close. It's never close. And that's exactly what football should be if we're going to play it overseas against some other countries. I don't care which level of football players we take and play. We should be winning. It is absolutely unreal and just unbelievable, and it's unacceptable that these guys went out there and took a loss. The head coach of this team should never think about picking up a clipboard ever again. He should never think about putting on another headset. This is beyond embarrassing. Beyond embarrassing. If people thought when the Olympic, men went out there and lost and got the bronze medal one year in basketball that was the end of the world. This is football. This is football. It's even different. This is even more. Not saying that you got to send out Patrick Mahomes and all the best players in the NFL out there, or heck, even the other burnt out college football players out there to go out there and compete. But nonetheless, if we're literally going to strap USA on some uniforms and go out there and play, somebody needs to be able to play. That's what my main point about this whole thing is. Now, this tournament began back in June 22nd of this year. So if you want to know the scores, here some of them are. Now, to start the tournament, Japan just went ahead and put them foots all up in Australia. Went out there and got them a nice beat down 50-6 as they took them out to the old woodshed and gave them a nice lashing. And yeah, they went and moved straight on to the next round. Now, Canada apparently has 2 different teams. Now, I don't know if it's Team A or Team B, but I'm going to go ahead and say Team A because I'm assuming that this is the better squad, the A team. Well, they gave Brazil a beat down that was none other than just illegal. It was just absolutely wrong and irresponsible. They beat this team 110-0. They treated them like they were playing for East Mississippi State and they were playing on Last Chance U. I really don't understand why you would beat somebody this damn bad. Call the game. Call it yourself. The referees, the people who watched this beatdown should be held responsible for what took place out there. I watched an episode of Last Chance U and they were talking about the teams that were getting their asses ran right into the ground. And I'm telling you, it does something to those people emotionally, psychologically. You don't recover from a beatdown this bad unless you are strong-willed My dad once told me about a time when he was in high school. They got beat by another high school 117, I think, to nothing. I didn't even know that was possible until I saw this score right here. Now, I know in middle school, I played on a basketball team that ended up beating another basketball team 72-0. And yeah, that's kind of that. I'm not going to explain that story today yet, but that happened, and it was ugly, and it was our worst players. It was all the sixth graders. It was me and my boys, and we just stomped the piss out of another team. Just crazy stuff. And yeah, we didn't call it, but either way, this game wasn't called either. No mercy rule, and they should have put a mercy rule up, because quite frankly, I haven't seen a beat down put down on paper like this since Chris Redfield got his ass curb stomped by Albert Wesker and Code Veronica. That was one of those embarrassing beatings, and I mean, this felt like Canada was doing a whole lot of Weskering in this one, where, you know, if you're doing things like this, you're spinning around in circles with your arms spread about, that means you are kicking ass. You are in full control of what is taking place out there, and quite frankly, it seems like you have no intentions of stopping what you're doing. So somebody needs to stop you, because you're not going to until you are stopped physically. Like, they needed to end Canada. Canada beat these guys like they were literally trying to start a whole war with Brazil. Why would you do this to somebody? This doesn't make any sense. People have pride, and when people's pride is hurt, you know what they do? Drive-bys. They start lighting people up. That's what happens next, and that's what Canada is hoping. I mean, I guess they want some smoke. Apparently Canada wants all the smoke, because you don't beat anybody like this, not grown men. Now, USA basically did the same thing to Panama. They won 86-12, which when you look at that 12 points, you'll come to understand that was a problem, because the United States defense was straight up salami in this tournament. You'll see that very soon. But this beatdown is expected. Seeing the United States put up 86 is like, well, it's the Americans. It's their football game playing against Panama, countries that haven't been playing football very long, and at least not at a very high level. Now, I know that this started back in 2002, but let's just say the United States men were the past champions. So, well, hey, they running strong. Allowing 12 points to Panama is unacceptable, to say the least. They definitely shouldn't have done that. So honestly, when I see that Panama had these 12 points, they probably went away with a little bit of pride. Way more pride than when Dan Marino walked out of his last football game after they got beat by 70 points by Jacksonville in the playoffs. So there's that. Now, this is why I say there's a Canada B team, because they lost 13-41 to Austria. Now, Austria, turns out, I guess they're decent at football. I mean, they have some pride about themselves. They've been teaching themselves the techniques and the ways of the game. Somebody sent them out there some football 101 for dummies book, and I guess they went out there and learned how to play, and they went out there and smashed the hell out of some good old Canada B team, and they moved on to the next round. Now, if you look at the dates, this is when I start getting confused, because I'm like, they played the game 4 days later, and they would play a game 4 days after that. That's how inexperienced these people are at this football game. They don't even realize that you should not be pounding helmets like this every 4 days. You need to give these people a week off. They need a little bit more time. I understand that this is the Olympics, and hey, we got to get back out there and play. But it's like, you know what? Slow down a little bit. Think about the health of the players. Once again, when it comes to American football, health and safety for the football players goes completely out the window. They don't give a damn. You know, I just wish they would just be honest and bring back all the huge hits and just let people get laid out like they used to. I mean, it's terrible for their mental health and their physical bodies, and careers will last a lot less time, but hey, it's what we all wanted. Let's not lie about it. Now, Australia did win this game 21-0, so let me stop, yapping. Now, I'm assuming this is Canada B team, but they still beat the tar out of Brazil. I mean, what Canada did to Brazil is just wrong. They won a total of 173-7 between two different football teams on Brazil. Brazil is loading up them tanks right now as we speak. Now, I'm assuming this is Canada A, because they went out there and beat Austria. So the next week, they went out there and avenged their B squad and said, hey, we got your back, bro. Hold this blunt, because we're going to take care of biz out there. So, and that's what they did. They went out there and won. Reparations. Now, this is when the coup de grace basically started hitting the fan. I mean, when the poop just shattered all over the fan and ended up all over the walls, the ceiling, the door, in your food and everything. It was this moment here when Japan triumphed USA. There was no USA today. It was just straight L's. LLL. That's what our country was standing for that day, because we lost 41-20 to Japan. And I'm telling you, it wasn't that close. It wasn't that close. I watched the highlights. I watched the detailed highlights, the 14, 15 minute long highlights, and watched it. Japan wanted it more. They were physically stronger in the trenches. They just beat the dog piss out of USA up front. And that is what's really disappointing. I don't know the size measurements of all the players out there, but most of them didn't look like they were very tall. And this is why I keep saying it's very semi-pro-esque, because what happened out here looked very semi-pro, very ugly. It was very sloppy football. First of all, USA allowed a touchdown in their own end zone after the running back fumbled because he ran into the back of his own lineman pretty much. And that's basically what spells doom. When you start football games off like that, it usually doesn't go well. Because I swear, I think less than 2 minutes later, Japan was throwing a touchdown and they were up 14-0, and the party was on. And it was on like Donkey Kong, and they were out there ready to romp and get to celebrating. They wanted to tap dance all over USA the way we be celebrating when it's NBA basketball games, hitting 3-pointers, or anybody scores a touchdown in the NFL. It is time to show up your opponent, shenanigans, parade. I mean, that's what it is. Now, Japan did not show up their opponent. They were focused and locked in on the goal. And the whole thing about staying focused and locked in on the goal, I will get to that point here in just a second, because I'll show you another highlight in the next game that really further dug in on the fact that USA had the most embarrassing performance of all time in our country's history when it comes to performing in athletics. And that was when they lost to Austria. My God. They lost to Austria the next week. And there was a moment near the end of that game that could only reek of semi-pro in the highest level. And there was when this punt just went awry. It got blocked. It looked like by the guy's own man. And when he blocked it, some random guy picked it up on the defense, just took off and scored. I mean, it was the most semi-pro. If you've ever watched a semi-pro football game, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Like, the talent disparity in that level of football is just absurd. Now, I played, semi-pro football, and we sometimes would show up out there with like 17 men and go out there and win a football game. Now, we would also show up with that 17 to 20 men and go out there and get absolutely curb stomped into the ground, American History X style, and it would be embarrassing. That's why I talk so heavily about, hey man, you just don't beat grown men into the ground like that. At some point in time, it's just got to stop. I lost out there, I think 52-0 one time in semi-pro. Boy, I can't imagine if they scored another 52 points. I would have just went ahead and just walked out in the middle of traffic after the football game and said, F it, I'm sorry, I couldn't do it. That level of embarrassment is just too much. It's just too much. I couldn't handle that. I mean, it's next level. Now, you'll see in this highlight here, by the end of this game against Austria, damn it, look at the scoreboard, homie. This is what happens in America. This is why American football, you always seeing some dumbass drop the football before he actually scores a touchdown. This is why you see people getting in people's faces, costing teams football games, because they got to show up their opponent. Ooh, I caught the football. Now let me get in your face, homie, and let you eat dirt. And then guess what? I'm gonna get flagged for 15 yards and wipe away half of that play. And that's what happens here in America. We do stupid stuff like this. This homie over here snapping, he popping off in the end zone, talking his cash, ready to go out here and do his whole full LeBron James routine out here in the end zone. But guess what? We're still down, and we don't really look like we're going to win this football game. But you are all about you in this moment. I'm doing me. USA, baby. I'm me, repping me all day. I'm about to get the IG photos and put it all over Twitter and everywhere to make me seem like I was an actual superstar. I'm going to lie to everybody. I'm going to start telling my friends I could have went to the NFL. I was playing for Team USA when really I could barely play in high school. Plays like that just fire me up, though, because it's just like it's the embodiment of American arrogance. That's what that is. Now, the other games didn't really matter much. I mean, Panama ended up beating Brazil, but everybody beat Brazil. I mean, poor Brazil just stood no chance in this tournament. They were just out there getting reps in, just getting beat, battered every week, just bludgeoned. I don't know what was left of that football team when it was all said and done, but damn. Now, I'm not sure what Canada team, once again, this was, but I'm assuming this was Canada B team, because after this game, where they just beat Australia 45-7, it was the conclusion, and it was the championship between Japan and Canada. And who do you think won that game? It's Canada. Canada won 20-9, and apparently a really great championship game. Strong effort by both ends. Kobayashi for Japan, I guess he just couldn't quite pull this one out. And I was really looking to see if he was actually related to the hot dog eating Kobayashi, but I couldn't find anything. So I'm assuming that he's not. But that would have been something if he actually was. Great athleticism runs in the family. Hot dog eater and football player. Just, two of a kind.